Hi guys, and welcome to a brand new series on our F1 Debate Show YouTube channel. This is called, as you can see by the title, The Big Debate. Now, this is going to be a weekly series as we've done in the past. This is going to be every so often when something big in the news has happened. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, isn't that what the F1 Debate Show is about? Well, I'm just going to briefly explain what the Big Debate is. It's when, as I said, when something big happens, me and Elsie are going to discuss it about this one particular topic, because we know we've watched YouTube videos before, we know what we want to see, and we don't want to see a 40-50 minute video, because two guys talking it for about 50 minutes, it does get boring. So I thought, let's create a new series where we kind of take that away from the F1 Debate Show and put it into a brand new series, more videos, more content for you guys as well, and just keep the F1 Debate Show free, keep it short and sweet, and obviously everyone's happy. So in this episode, for the first episode, we are going to be talking about the news that Jenson Button is leaving Formula 1 in 2017. And not only that, we're also going to be discussing the three-driver strategy that McLaren have put into place for 2017 and 2018. So, in the news this week, that just after the Italian Grand Prix, Jenson Button announced that he would be stepping down for one season in the 2017 season, and replacing him is the young Belgian driver Stoffel Vandoorne. Now, for about a good few months now, there has been loads of speculation, loads of rumours that Jenson will be retiring from Formula 1 altogether and Stoffel will be taking his place. That is not necessarily the case anymore. Jenson has actually stepped back from the driver role. He said that he hasn't retired. He's just on a break. He said that he's been in Formula 1 for 17 years. It's been too much. He wants some time to himself. He wants time to relax. And obviously he deserves it after 17 years in Formula 1. That's just, amazing. Full credit to him. And he's won a World Championship as well. So he's taking a year away. Income for him is Stoffel Vandoorne, alongside, for the third year at McLaren, Fernando Alonso. So we're here to basically explain and narrow it down what the hell is going on at McLaren, basically, because when they announced this, everyone was just like, well, I wasn't expecting this. So obviously, as I just said, Stoffel Vandoorne and Fernando Alonso are going to drive in 2017. Jenson Button, however, is going to be behind the scenes next season. He's going to be basically like a test driver in a way. He's going to drive the simulator. He's going to look at like all the data at the factory. He's going to be at Grand Prix weekend looking at the car, and maybe even get called up for to do a couple of practice sessions. He was saying that he'll always be on standby, always be ready for when McLaren give him the call to go there on a weekend. Say for example, like in Australia when Alonso got hurt, Stoffel stood in for him at Bahrain. That could, that's what Jenson would do. But then after 2017, there's also a rumour that Jenson could actually rejoin McLaren and have a drive in 2018, because he's actually signed a new 2-year deal. And everyone's like, well, what's going on, basically, because this has never happened before in Formula 1. You announce 2 drivers, you always have that one reserve driver, but now Jenson's like, they've got 3 drivers all of a sudden. This is really, really confusing. It is like baffling at the moment. I don't know what McLaren are doing. I think they just they want to keep Jenson here. Jenson wants to stay, but they're like, well, but if we get rid of Stoffel, then he's not going to have a career, and people's going to be onto us at our back. So this is sort of where McLaren's went, and obviously we're going to give our opinions. But so Elsie, Jenson Button is leaving Formula 1 for one season. Apparently, obviously, we don't know if he's going to come back in 2018. Some fans doubt he is, which I don't know. But for 2017, we are not going to have Jenson Button in Formula 1 for the first time in 17 years. Let us know your opinions on this. What do you make of all this?
Well, I'll tell you firstly. Obviously, when I was at work the other day, when I got the news on my phone about the Jenson Button news, and obviously I have Sky Sports and BBC News like notifications that will come up. And the first one that came up was BBC News, and it said that Jenson Button announces retirement from Formula 1 for 2017. Now, obviously, as soon as I see Jenson Button and retirement, I almost gasped. I was thinking, oh my God, he's gone. And also as well, I don't think that's, we didn't see that coming. Obviously, Felipe Massa, someone who he's raced with for a very long time, almost the same length as his career, has retired a few days ago, so it's not unheard of. But then obviously a few hours later, when obviously I got back and had a look more in depth on the F1 website, it said that he'd stepped down to let Stoffel Vandoorne drive. Now, obviously, since Bahrain, as JT said, people have thought that Stoffel should drive for McLaren for next year, that Jenson's getting on a bit, and they should, both of them could, but obviously only one can. There has to be 2 drivers in the team. So, I'm glad that Stoffel Vandoorne is driving alongside Fernando Alonso. It'll be a great pairing. It is still a young and old, obviously because Fernando is getting on, but I wouldn't have said he's a better driver than Jenson or anything like that. I think maybe when you think about it, it's like, why did, let's go back a few months ago, obviously around Germany time, Fernando Alonso was signed by McLaren and Jenson Button wasn't. So it's almost like, why did they sign Fernando, a good few months before Jenson? Obviously, you think he's been at the team less time than Jenson. Obviously, the first time I remember Fernando had a terrible time with McLaren one season and was involved with that spying scandal, which cost him, I think it was around $100 million or something ridiculous like that.
Oh.
And obviously, the second time they haven't been performing, no podiums or wins or anything like that. So why did they sign Fernando to start with? But obviously, that was a few months ago. It's now. Obviously, Fernando was very much safe, and Jenson was almost like, well, what do I do? And JT, do you think Jenson in his mind stepped down to just let Stoffel take the drive, to think, obviously, I'm getting on a bit. I think he's 36 or 37, something like that. Jenson Button next year, obviously in 2017, if he was driving. Do you think he stepped down to let Stoffel Van Dorn drive, or do you think it's more so for himself? So who do you think he's got the best interests at heart here? Do you think it's himself, or do you think it's Stoffel's?
I would have imagined that Jenson and Stoffel would have had a conversation with Ron Dennis and also the high executive people at McLaren about, what's going to go on next season. I think McLaren would have had a plan about this, maybe at the start of last season, the start of this season rather. Probably when Stoffel took the seat of Fernando Alonso for one race, and they probably would have thought, right, we want to keep Jenson wants to stay in Formula One, but Stoffel he's begging for a seat. I mean, people have been saying that he can't accept another reserve role. He's losing ground in Formula One. He's 24 years old, which it's not old, but if you look at drivers like such as Carlos Sainz, Felipe Nasr, Max Verstappen, those young drivers who are like 20, 21, 22, and obviously 18, obviously they've got a lot of what should I say? Obviously they've got a lot of career ahead of them. Stoffel is 24. He's getting on a bit, so I mean, people aren't going to take on like a 24, 25, 26, 27-year-old, because obviously they can always look at like GP2, GP3 and grab them and have some fresh new talent. So Stoffel needed the drive at some point, and I don't think anyone would have took him on. So it was almost like pretty much like a gamble, really. So they were like, right, we'll work this out. They probably offered it on the table between Stoffel and Jenson and said, this is the plan. Do you agree? And maybe this was the plan that they announced, the three-driver strategy, or maybe Jenson said, look, I still want to be in Formula One. Because I would imagine they would have listened to Jenson more than what they did with Stoffel, because Jenson's a legend in Formula One, and he's been at McLaren for 7 years. So, I mean, you know what I mean. And I think Stoffel's been there for about 4 years now as a development driver. So they obviously are going to listen to Jenson. So he probably would have said, look, I want to stay in Formula One, but I want to have it. I want to have a year off, because I've been in Formula 17 years. So, and obviously Stoffel, I want to give Stoffel the drive. So let's say, for example, right, give me a 2-year contract, and I'll be your development driver. I'll take a step back. Stoffel can have my seat, and then in 2018, that's when Alonso's contract runs out. Then maybe he can replace Alonso for a season. Then Jenson can leave, or maybe Stoffel him and Stoffel will swap. Maybe there is some sort of clause in their contract that will allow them to swap in 2018 should Jenson want to, because he hasn't confirmed he is coming back, but he has said that there is a possibility he could have a drive in 2018 with McLaren. So it is a lot confusing. It is very strange. But in my eyes, to be fair, I think if I was Stoffel Van Dorn, I would be thinking to myself, well, this is a bit of a shame in a way. Even if they haven't had that talk, because I don't know how this came about. Say McLaren did approach Stoffel and Alonso and said, "You're still going to be pairing. But we are also going to announce that Jenson is going to be a development driver." They could have spoken to him separately, away from Stoffel and Alonso, and just said to Jenson, "Look, we want you to be a development driver." Then told Stoffel, and he's probably thinking, "Well, everyone else has got a contract for 2 to 3 seasons. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be in for 1 season. This could be my one and only season." I mean, look at Kevin Magnussen, for example. He didn't have any McLaren didn't have a three driver strategy then, but they got rid of K-Mag after 1 season, which I thought was a very harsh. And the same could happen to Stoffel. I mean, he might be a world champion in the future. I mean, obviously we don't know how good McLaren are going to be next season. Yeah. They could have a very good package, and Stoffel could provide the talent and the pace that they need. But I mean, Stoffel will be like, well, it's like I said, there is a seat at risk, and obviously they are going to choose Jenson over Stoffel. So in a way, Stoffel's kind of got the short straw out of the 3 drivers, which. I don't know what really Stoffel makes of this, really, because he has made a statement which I'll read in a moment from both Ron, Alonso, Jenson and Stoffel. I don't know what Stoffel's really thinking, but I don't know how this negotiation came about. But if I was Stoffel Van Dorn, I would be kind of disappointed in a way. I'll say. I mean,
Well,
What do you think? Do you think Stoffel would be upset, or do you think he's thinking, you know what, I've got to drive. Let's see what I can
yeah.
do.
Well, the bigger thing that
Or-
I've got from this, JT, is that obviously Stoffel Van Dorn isn't driving for McLaren indefinitely. Now, obviously, I think the thing that I'm more bothered about is not so much Stoffel, it's more Jensen and what he's doing. Okay, so obviously he told that. So I mean, all contracts aside, because I mean, obviously. Obviously, I don't know how it works, but maybe if it doesn't matter about the contract, I mean, he can work behind the scenes, which is fine. But why has he said that even now? So obviously 2018 is 2 seasons away. You know, you're missing out a good season of Formula One. Obviously, when Stoffel and Alonso will be driving,
Yeah.
or Stoffel and Fernando will be driving. Why is he keep consistently saying that he's going to be driving in 2018?
Yeah.
Because the thing that gets me, JT, okay, is that say if Jensen wants to drive in 2018, okay, one, it's a strange move by him, okay, because obviously he's
Yeah.
been driving consistently, and I mean it's not just in Formula One. Obviously he's been driving. He started karting when he was 7 years old. So technically, obviously, from 7 to current day, he's been obviously all through his childhood years, all through his teenage years, and his young adult years, and obviously his Formula One career. He's been a racing driver. He's known nothing else. He's been doing it consistently, day in day out, every single year, non-stop.
Yeah.
Why, if he was going to drive in 2018, why would he take a year out, or a sabbatical as it's called? Just lie about, do triathlons, do the things that make JB tick, and then come back for 2018. I mean, maybe it's good to get his head straight, but I mean, he is old. Obviously, he's in his mid-30s, and he's been in Formula One for 16 years. And I just think that's, I don't think it's right at this time, because if he was going to be driving in 2018, I think you just press on with 2017. So the thing that gets me, JT, is that obviously, say 2017 rolls by, does that mean that both McLaren, so obviously Ron Dennis and everyone everyone in the factories, obviously more so Stoffel Van Dorn and Fernando Alonso, will all have it in the back of their minds that, okay, well, Jensen's going to be coming back in 2018. That means that Stoffel Van Dorn, he'll be like, oh, well, what's the point in even, not what's the point in even driving this season, but I've got one season in Formula One, and then I'm almost like, I've got to wait to decide. Jensen has my fate in his hands. Some with McLaren as well, because obviously Ron Dennis has said that he trusts Jensen completely. He loves Jensen, as you said, JT. Obviously Jensen, he knows what he's talking about. People listen to him, so Ron will be thinking it's up to Jensen again. So again, Ron will agree that Stoffel has his fate in Jensen's hands, and then also Fernando will be a bit worried, because he'll be thinking, well, again, as he said, JT, his contract comes to an end. He's an old driver. His first championship was 11 years ago or 12 years ago. Let's say his last championship was 11 years ago. When it gets to 2017, obviously 2006, so 11 years ago. So he'll be worried. So basically, everyone at McLaren will be worried that this one man is going to come back. So indirectly, I mean, I know he hasn't done, he's not like a Pastor Maldonado or anything bad or anything like that, but technically he is kind of making McLaren slowly implode, because they're just all getting worried, and I just can't help thinking that if I was Stoffel Van Dorn, every single race I'd be doing, I'd almost be having this sickly feel, thinking that I might not be doing it. So, like, for example, the German Grand Prix next year, or let's just say more, one that'll probably be on the calendar next year. So let's say Monaco. He'll be at Monaco, and then like Japan and all this, and even the last race in Abu Dhabi or Brazil, wherever it decides to be in 2017. I think it's going to look like it's going to be confirmed for Abu Dhabi. So he'll be in the last race of the season in 2017, almost having this sickly feel that, okay, I've got my last race in Formula One. Sorry, I've got my last race for 2017, but then this could be my last race in Formula One, for the reason of Jensen. So, and that's just strange, JD, because the last thing I'm going to say on this, as you know, for example, with 2013 with Sergio Perez and 2013 with Kevin Magnussen, the team decides who drives for next season, don't they? Checo was out in 2013, obviously to make way for K-Mag. 2014, K-Mag was out to make way for Fernando Alonso. The team decides it. But not in 2017. The person who decides who is in and who's out is Jenson Button, and that's what's strange. I think that is incredibly strange. It's strange from Jensen's part that he's saying that he's almost not confirming, but he's getting very close to confirming that he's going to be back in the car for 2018. But then he's also making all three parties in McLaren, obviously, so McLaren and Ron Dennis, Stoffel and Fernando, just like almost feel sick with worry that, oh my God, Jensen can control us. He decides who's in and who's out. He's like the popular kid at school, or the big cheese on campus. He can decide who is in and who's out, and that's what's very, 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 very strange. I think it should be Ron Dennis and McLaren, which it has been all these years. I mean, of course, team principals decide who is in and who's out. I mean, obviously, you just see how much obviously sway that Dietrich Mateschitz and Dr. Helmut Marko had in kicking Daniel Kvyat out and getting Max Verstappen in. and then that's almost doing a role reversal because the team doesn't have this, and the team principal don't have any say anymore. It's now this driver who's been in Formula 1 for a long time, so obviously he has a lot of credibility, but he's still a driver at the end of the day. And I just think that's really bad, especially for Stoffel's mentality, because I mean, again, he could be stronger, he could be happier with this, he might not mind it. But if I was Stoffel, I wouldn't be happy with this. I'd be driving a season in Formula 1. But then I would know that I'm not driving to impress the team. I'm driving almost. It doesn't matter. I mean, Jensen could be so impressed with my performance. I could finish first in the World Championship. I could lift that World Championship. But it doesn't matter. If Jensen wants to drive next season, 2018, if he wants to drive next season, he can do. And that's what's just incredibly strange about this. Do you think that's strange, JT, that Jensen hasn't retired? And he's also not just saying that he's going to be working with the team, because again, that's fine. Obviously, as you remember, Michael Schumacher, after his first retirement in 2006, obviously he worked with Ferrari for 4 years until obviously he returned with the Silver Arrows in 2010. So he can work behind the scenes with McLaren. He can be on the pit wall, like obviously many drivers have done in the past, helping out and stuff like that. So he can do that with McLaren. But he's not just saying he's going to help with the team. He's also saying, I might be back to drive. Development driver, again, that's fine. But that's just the thing that's getting me. He might be back to drive. And that's crazy. What do you say in this, JT? That Jensen said, I'm going to step down for 2017, but I'm almost certainly going to come back for 2018. Almost. And that's the thing that McLaren have got to balance. It's very strange.
Well, say he does come back in 2018 and he becomes back a stronger driver. Say McLaren have like the better package than what they did last season and the season before. Say he comes back and actually challenges for the World Championship. I mean, obviously that meant that break did him a world of good. So that means what happens in the future. So will Jensen stay around? Will Stoffel ever get a seat back if that was the case? As like you said, Elsie. I mean, to have a year out and then to actually have plans to come back in, it's almost like that is again. It's strange from Jensen because like Formula 1 drivers such as Massa and Schumacher and drivers like that who retired. Obviously didn't really go behind the scenes as a test driver with plans to come back with the same team in the future. And obviously Jensen has that vision that maybe like you said he just wants a year out, or obviously he wants to still keep working with McLaren behind the scenes and everything because he's a massive asset to them. But as like I said, say like he comes back and say he wins the World Championship in 2018, which would be big. Like, it's an overstatement, but it can happen. Say he does win the World Championship in 2018, and he's took Stoffel's seat, and Alonso's there for he signed a 1-year contract with McLaren in 2017, and Stoffel will be sitting there going, well, now I haven't got to drive because I doubt he'll take Alonso's seat because about that time Stoffel will be 26, probably going on 27. He'll be getting on a bit, and McLaren do have drivers lower down the ranks. Obviously we know one Nick De Vries will be keen to get a seat there, so he's about 17, 18 years old, so again he's around that age where he can come into Formula 1, so there's loads of drivers still in the waiting, and McLaren will look at it and go, well, a bit like what they have with what we were saying before about Stoffel being 24, the teams will prefer to go for a younger driver. Obviously by the time Stoffel gets a seat when he's 25, 26, he's at that age kind of thing. So I don't hope he doesn't end up like a Pedro De La Rosa type of driver, which, no offense to Pedro De La Rosa, but he hasn't really had the best careers. He's more been a test driver than anything, like behind the scenes, and I don't want Stoffel to be that because Pedro De La Rosa could have been a world champion at that team. He could have had that potential. Stoffel has that, but I hope he's not behind the scenes all the time. So have a chance. Maybe say McLaren do have a shot at 2017 at the title, and say Stoffel outscores Alonso, out-qualifies Alonso, and Stoffel might keep his seat, and maybe Jensen might say Alonso's seat, and Alonso might either go to down the grid or he might leave Formula 1 altogether. Because to add spice to this, Alonso has got his contract ends at the end of next season, so that's just added more fuel into the fire. So I don't know what's going to happen. McLaren might get rid of all three and bring in 2 new drivers. I really don't know what's going on, honestly, because this was so unpredictable and so random. It was very random. Because I remember I was on my phone. I was out on the Saturday. I came in and I seen someone. The first thing I seen was something like, "Thanks for the memories, Jensen." And I was like, "Oh, what's going on here?" And I scrolled down. And it's like Jensen Button announces their from retirement. And I was like, "Well, I was not expecting this." And then I seen something on the BBC where it said, "Goodbye, Jensen. ... for now." And I was like, "What do you mean for now? What's going on?" So I read it, and then I went on a bit. Read the one on the McLaren website, read the statement, and obviously they basically explained. But I was really confused. But obviously we obviously as like I said, this would take forever to explain in the F1 debate show on top of other things. This is why we created this for situations like this. And what a scenario to kick off the brand new series with. I mean, it's absolutely absolute craziness. It has devastated a lot of fans. I mean, I think a lot of fans were getting too much ahead of themselves because they were like, "Oh, Jensen's retirement." It's like, no, he hasn't retired. He's semi-retired in a way. He's taken a gap year basically, which he's never had because I think he was in Formula 19 years old. I was watching this nice documentary on Channel 4 just before qualifying of the Italian Grand Prix. He was chatting to Murray Walker about his career, and we'll talk about his career as well when Jensen hits 300 Grand Prix. I think it's Malaysia. I think he hits it. So stay tuned for that. But it was such a wonderful and dramatic documentary about Jensen Button's career. He started Formula 19 years old. So that's like, he's at a young age, he wants to be out with his friends and stuff, but obviously he's got to take life seriously with Formula 1 because it's his job. As like Jensen said, F1, it has to be your life when you're involved in it, so you can't, go out and party, go out and have a good time with friends or whatever. You've got to be serious. And Jensen's never had that because, 19 years old, he's worked to get to Formula 1, so now he's have a year out to spend time with his friends, his family, his apparent new girlfriend. I don't know much about that. Obviously, unfortunately, John Button's no longer with us, so obviously probably spend time with I believe his mum. So loads of great things with Jensen. Obviously, come to the paddock as well. We'll probably see him in interviews on Sky Sports, Channel 4, and teams like that. Go to British Grand Prix in 2017. We'll see Jensen there on the grid being interviewed. He might even do the podium interviews next season, that'll be really good to see. So,
but then it'll be also strange if he then takes the seat back at McLaren 2018.
He's on the podium 2018. Say for example, when Stoffel's interviewing him, so how do you feel about the?
But I'm sure that that's happened with Michael before. I mean, I have a very good idea. Obviously, 7-time world champion when he retired first time. I'm sure that Michael did interviews in like 2009. So he did an interview, say, at the Chinese Grand Prix in 2009. So what's it like, blah 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 blah. And then the next year he wasn't on the podium. But when was Michael last on the podium? Valencia would have been a good one. So And then, you know what I mean. So, but then he'd be on the podium next time. It'd have been pretty good. But I'm sure that happened before. But yeah,
but yeah, obviously, as I said before, I went on the McLaren website. There was loads of statements made, and I'm just going to quickly read one from Ron Dennis, the executive chairman and chief executive officer of the McLaren Technology Group, which is a mouthful, by the way. I'll rather say it a team principal. Because I don't know who really is the team principal at McLaren, but he said McLaren Honda's race driver lineup next season will be Fernando and Stoffel, a perfectly balanced mix of proven, brilliant, and immense potential. But before I speak on the subject of either of them, I want to talk about Jensen. As a race driver for our team these past 7 seasons, he has been superb both on and off the track. And as we're seeing this season. As we're saying this season, he remains superb. Not only fast and fit, but also experienced and expert. He'll start his 298th Grand Prix, the Italian Grand Prix, tomorrow. As such, he's the most experienced driver on the grid, which is a very touching statement there from Ron Dennis. Not obviously just starting there with Fernando and Stoffel, basically getting that out the way first, and then going to say about Jensen, just to basically, he's kind of said, right, he said he's live in front of millions of people. He said, right, Stoffel and Fernando is going to be our drivers, and everyone's like, where's Jensen? He's like, well, but before I start, I want to talk about Jensen, and he goes on to say about Jensen and stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, Jensen has had an absolutely fantastic career at McLaren. Not only McLaren, but in Formula 1 altogether. Well, the later stages, not necessarily the earlier stages. But Jensen Button did say his statement was, "I'm delighted that I'll be staying on as a key member of the McLaren Honda team. In fact, I'm massively excited about my new role, which has come about as a result of a number of in-depth chats with Ron. Specifically, I'm looking forward to becoming even more deeply involved in the team's efforts to bring the success we've all been striving to deliver." So say for example, say Jensen obviously will be stepping back as a development driver, and say they make progress in 2017, but then in 2018 they go on to win the Constructors' Fair, or maybe in the World Championship, you don't know. And how good would that be for Jensen that is actually a part of that, to actually, to say like, oh, I achieved this and so and whatnot, and then obviously and drive it and drive it in 2018. And then be like, I achieved this, I made this success. And then not only that, but they also make Jensen an even bigger legend than what he already is. And then when he does retire, I believe he will have a role. I had a funny feeling that if he was to retire from motorsport altogether, I would have thought he would have left Formula. My prediction was he'd probably go to Williams for a season, leave Formula 1, go and do something else, come back to McLaren, and work behind the scenes. That's what I thought it was going to happen, but I think now he's got no intention of going to Williams. He made that clear. So I believe once he leaves Formula 1 altogether, he'll actually be behind the scenes. He maybe one day even be team principal. Maybe not a McLaren, maybe at another team. We've seen drivers do that before. Not necessarily work, but I mean, I don't know what the plan is for Jenson. I hope he might buy a McLaren and change it to Button Grand Prix, but I highly, highly doubt that. But I mean, all in all, it has been an emotional few days for not only for Jenson and McLaren, but for Formula 1 fans alike, whether you follow McLaren or not. Jenson Button has been a huge part of Formula 1. He's been a huge part of people's careers. He's helped young drivers. I mean, drivers such as Max Verstappen, Danny Kvyat, even Daniel Ricciardo, for example, they've grown up watching Jenson on the grid, and to be aside, to be next to him on the grid, it's great. You could say like Jenson was a massive inspiration in my life, and obviously just the same go. I mean, yes, we are seeing him go for one season, but I think it's going to be so strange. Like when Schumacher retired, I remember when he retired, it was when Jarno Trulli, Barrichello as well. When all them left, it was weird to even say. And again, Mark Webber, when you went into the next season, it was like, wow, they're not even on the grid. And then, I got used to it after probably about 2 or 3 races. I was like, oh, they're not in Formula 1. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
But with Jenson, it's going to be so strange, probably for a lot of the season. Probably not until Germany or something. Probably about the midpoint of the season. That's when it's probably going to sink in.
Martin Brundle said. Well, Martin Brundle said on commentary, he said that obviously when he retired from Formula 1, and then the first race of the season when they were all lined up on the grid, he said that he was watching it in the garage. Obviously, he was just coming out into the garage. I think he was at, I forgot what garage he said he was at, but he wasn't. He was just walking around in the paddock, and he saw that they were he saw that they were lined up on the grid, ready to start, and he saw the lights go out, and he was almost like really anxious, and he said that he felt like that kind of. Butterflies, like getting nervous because he was like, oh, stop the race, I'm not in it. And then it took him a while to think, well, hang on, I'm not in the race anymore. So that'll be the same as obviously, right when we saw Mark Webber retire, because Webber was always associated with Red Bull, and then obviously when we saw another Aussie in the car, but obviously this time in the shape of Daniel Ricciardo, it was strange that the 5 lights were out, Webber was in the paddock, but then Webber wasn't in the car. Come on, Charlie White, stop the race. Webber isn't in the car yet. He needs to get back in.
Exactly. Not only that, it's going to be weird for Jenson as well. I mean, yes, he wants to take a break, but probably like say 2 or 3 Grand Prix in, he's going to be sitting there. Say he's at McLaren, he's going to be like, you might get too carried away. He might turn up in his overalls or something like that, and he might be on the grid. Martin Brundle's doing his grid walk, and he'll be like, I'll still stop. I'll be Jenson. What are you doing? You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not in the Grand Prix.
I'll keep calling
exactly like
Jenson.
I mean, Stoffel. That'll hurt him a bit. That's like having a girlfriend and calling her your ex's name. That's kind of awkward. That's like hi Jenson. I mean Stoffel.
like being in the understudy in a play, they don't want to see the understudy.
Exactly. So it's many ways you can discuss this, but yeah, Jenson Button will not be in Formula 1 in 2017. Very, very upsetting statement, but I'm pretty sure. I hope we can see him back in 2018. I really, really do. I'm confident he'll be back for one more season, whether it's 1 or 2, I don't know, but I believe 2018 might be his last altogether, and then step back and have a role at McLaren. But yes, many emotions at the Italian Grand Prix. I mean, as well as Masters of Retirement, which we'll discuss later on in the future, and also with Jenson Button's announcement coming in. But also for Stoffel, he'll be pleased. He'll be ready to make the jump. I believe we'll see him now more in practice as well, to see what he can show. He's already scored points for McLaren this season, so there's a lot to come of age from this young Belgium, and I can't wait to see what he can produce.
I just want to leave you guys with one thought. What I wanted to say. Remember, obviously, let's throw back the clock a bit to when Michael Schumacher retired in 2006. Okay, so obviously, the last race, Brazil 2006. We were all saying goodbye to the 7-time world champion who'd been in Formula 1 for about 19 years. 18 years, I think it was, at that point. Now, obviously, everyone thought that was going to be his last time in Formula 1, so they made a big deal about it. Little did they know that he would come out in 2010, and then 2 years later, they would be doing that same circus over again, like obviously celebrating his retirement and making him leave. I mean, yes, people said that in 2012, obviously, it was very emotional compared to 2006 when people were thinking, hang on a minute, Michael's not done, he shouldn't be going. So, JT,
Yes,
just
go
the
on.
last question on this. Obviously, you say that he probably will be back for 2018. I think he might. Well, what he said is he might be, but I'm very unsure. So does this mean that in Abu Dhabi this year, Abu Dhabi 2016, people are going to be celebrating Jensen's retirement and going, well done, Jensen, you've had a great career. We're going to say, bye. Or are they going to be Are they just going to be leaving it and going? Oh, Jensen's going. Have a nice holiday. Have a nice sabbatical, and we'll see you in 2018. And then obviously wait until he really retires. So that's a bit strange because then I would think, well, what about if they celebrate his retirement this year? But then he turns around in 2018 and goes, "I'm back, guys." Then everyone else goes, "Oh, what about that retirement thing?
That party,
You've got to do all that
to buy
again."
more balloons. You've got to buy more British flags. You've got to buy cake as well. So it's pretty exactly. Oh man, more effort from the mechanics. But
So
yeah, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do in at the last race of the season. Whether they're actually celebrating in a way like what they did with Mark Webber. Obviously they have like the Aussie national anthem and the flag and thank you Mark and stuff. When Seb left Red Bull, they had a similar sort of thing for him. Kind of like a send off basically because he wasn't leaving Formula One. He was just moving teams. He'd been there with the team for all his years, so it was kind
people
of like
were happy because he was leaving. He was leaving Red Bull,
exactly.
who were giving him everything.
But so back on Jensen. I don't know what as I said, I don't know what they're going to do. I think there'll be like a bit of a thank you thing, a bit of a tribute for him, just in case he doesn't come back. But then, say if he does, and then I think once he does announce his retirement fully, I think that's when there'll be more of a bigger celebration. But for Abu Dhabi, I think there'll only be like a little bit of a thank you, Jensen, goodbye for now. And then say in maybe halfway 2017, when it comes up 2018, he can turn around and go, sorry guys, I'm not coming back. Then there'll be like a bigger tribute for him, like documentaries about him. There'll be films.
There'll be a tribute, but he won't be on the grid. So, for example, they can't do a farewell race for him. Obviously, just using Mark Webber as an example, JT, as you remember, Brazil was so celebrated. Obviously, everything was all wrapped up. Obviously, Red Bull had already they were 8 in a row at that time. Obviously, Seb had won the four-time World Championship. Obviously, they'd won the Constructors' World Championship. Mark's work was done. Brazil was a great coast around, and then he took his helmet off, had a fantastic tribute. If that happens, JT, so for example, as you said, there will be tributes, there will be documentaries, but he won't be in Formula 1. He won't have a farewell race, which obviously every driver wants, because obviously every driver will have retired at some point. But I think it makes it all the more special if they were in Formula 1 at that time, like Michael in 2012, when he could actually bow out in a great race by him, say hello to everyone, say bye to everyone, and all that. So it will be strange for Jensen, obviously, just to do that, just to turn around on some random day when there's not a Grand Prix weekend or he's not on the grid and say, I'm retiring. I think that's just the bigger thing that I'm thinking of. What about if he's throwing like a retirement party at the end of the year, but then he turns around and goes, I'm not going. It's almost putting more pressure on the Formula 1 paddock, because they're going to have to think, well, what's happening with Jensen? Is he leaving? Is he not? Because I've got to go and buy these balloons, guys. Abu Dhabi's in about 9 weeks' time. I've got to buy these balloons. Got to get the JB cake out, and so it is strange. In my personal opinion, guys, I do think this is a very strange decision by Jensen. I mean, obviously, I know he wants a break from Formula 1. But it's not like he's 19 years old and he's been in for 1 year and he wants a break. He's been in for so long, over a decade, and he's been racing since, obviously, as I said, he was 7 years old. So, this is, it's obviously 20 or 30 plus years in racing. It just is a strange decision. And if he comes back, I hope it's for the incredibly right reasons. If it's for the wrong reasons, because again, he could be taking the seat of Stoffel, Fernando. But as I say, McLaren will spend the whole year almost in mid-phase of is Jensen coming back? Mm-hmm. What is happening, JT? We don't know. Nobody else knows. And I think it's quite. If anything, I think this is maybe a bit selfish by Jensen, because he's thinking McLaren are going to spend the whole year next year thinking it's all about me, it's all about Jensen, and it is in a way, because Jensen, as I say, JT, he holds everyone's fate in his hands.
Exactly. I mean, just as you said before about the retirement thing, I remember when Rubens Barrichello, he did, I don't think he got a farewell party, because I think the season ended and then we didn't really hear anything from him after that. Really, I'm not aware. But I mean, as like you said, it is going to be like probably a lot about Jensen to the latter stages, which it's fully deserved, because I mean, what he's achieved. I mean, he would have loved to achieve more. Like he was saying, like in Formula 1, like whatever you've got, you just want more. It's kind of like a greedy sport, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want to do everything. while you can, because you've got the opportunity. So you've got to take it as much as you can. You want to stamp yourself in the history of Formula One. Jensen's the one-time world champion. He's always going to be remembered for his drives, for his passion, for his determination. Like, he's done everything right, and that's everything that led. He's been a perfect role model to everyone coming up into Formula One. He's won the world championship. He's done everything. He's been through the worst. He's been through the best. And now this is kind of like, I'm going to take a year off and just consider my chances. And maybe in that gap year he could be looking elsewhere, just in case he doesn't get the drive, because someone else could come along and offer something to go, right, Jensen, here's something. Say for example Porsche come along, or Audi for Le Mans, or the endurance racing, and go, there, Jensen, look, there's an offer for you to race 2018 Le Mans, 2019, and to do whatever alongside what Mark Webber and Brendan Galloway and drivers like that, and just like. And they might say, right, I'm leaving Formula One. I'm going to go and do something else with my career, and maybe achieve, maybe win Le Mans, because Nico Hulkenberg's got that. So Jensen might go, I want to achieve more motorsport, but he has said that Formula One is his life, and it's got to be, and he wants to do as much as he can.
And that'd be great. Well, he said racing is. I think that would be great. I think that would probably be a better option than going back to Formula One, JT.
It would be.
To do that, because obviously Formula One. There's so many reasons why maybe you shouldn't come back for 18, but obviously he keep racing, because Jensen obviously he wants to keep racing, so that would be amazing, go into endurance or whatever. And also as well, he's still got other things going for him. Obviously he's got his triathlon.
Oh yeah, he'll be doing that in his break. Yeah, he was saying.
Got the Jensen Button Trust Fund. Obviously, so he's got a load of things going for him. It's amazing to be Jensen. It's amazing to be Jensen Button. He's never bored. He's never a dull moment in Jensen's life, but. Yeah, maybe the best option, as JT said, will be doing something like that. Even if it's not competitive, obviously there's other events over the world. Obviously, they run like sporting events all around. Obviously, for example, like in Germany, they do loads of Nürburgring events and stuff like that. Just have fun, Jensen. It doesn't have to be Formula One, which I think at the moment you're making it sound like that's your only option. Just have fun with your life. You don't have to. Be racing all the time.
You may not want to do racing. You might just, as you said, do his triathlons, do events and stuff. Obviously, be at Goodwood, be at the All Sports Show. I was there last year.
And also as well,
exactly, you might get invited for obviously not for the race, but I know Bruno Senna and Chandok, they've been invited to do FP1, FP2 alongside David Croft, and he could do that. He'd be like, oh, with me today is Jensen Button. Jensen's like, hello.
Yeah. Well, I know Sky. I know. After he'd be snatched up by everyone
on Channel 4, on the radio, on the radio.
Sky's F1, who have Anthony Davidson. But yeah, that would be obviously amazing to have that Jensen on that, and also Top Gear before it dies out. They may be looking for someone else. Maybe that could be Jensen. Which, by the way, when Jeremy left, Jensen was tipped to go and do that, and I think that would be a much better option. And also Jensen, the last thing, you just put McLaren in better ease. I don't have any idea what they're thinking at the moment, but they have got to be not worried, but they've got to be in the back of their heads. And Stoffel probably is a bit worried.
I would be if I was Stoffel.
What's Jensen going to do next? Because whatever Jensen decides, JT, Stoffel will have to go with it. If Jensen wants to jump off that cliff, Stoffel will have to go with him. It's almost like they've tied together. Because if Jensen takes a left step, so will Stoffel. If Jensen, whatever Jensen does, Stoffel will have to follow. So if Jensen takes that seat back, Stoffel will have to give it up, even though he probably doesn't want to. And he could be doing anything. He could be first in the world championship, but he would have to give it up. It
is all messed up. It's all fun and games, but I can't wait to see. This is going to be pretty exciting for McLaren Honda, but I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I'm pretty sure we'll find out very, very soon. But anyway, guys, we're going to wrap this video up. Thank you very much for watching. It has been a long episode, but has been one hell of a video to talk about to kick off the big debate. Don't forget to use the hashtag Big Debate, which is a new hashtag that we are creating to promote anything you want to talk about that is big in Formula One. There's loads of things coming up recently that could be involved for episode 2, but stay tuned for that. This isn't going to be a weekly series. It's going to be whenever something big happens in Formula One. So, thank you very much for watching. Pretty much.
Normally
so thank you very much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. Don't forget to watch the F1 debate show this Saturday, and we'll see you very soon, guys. Take care.
Bye bye.